vakantie in musicalland. Dat geeft ons de gelegenheid om eens op zoek te gaan naar de Nederlandse Frankie Valli. Zelfs het Musical Awards Gala 2010 is begonnen met een preview van Jersey Boys. Over een paar jaar hier achter mij in het Beatrix Theater in Utrecht. Maar om uit te vissen waaraan een Frankie Valli moet voldoen, moeten we wel de hele wereld afreizen. Laten we eens beginnen in Londen.
Hi, I'm Scott Manello and I play Frankie Valli in the London cast of Jersey Boys, and you're watching musicalworld.tv.
Scott, you look a bit tallish for a Frankie Valli kind of guy.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I'm a little bit taller. Apparently I'm the tallest Frankie there is.
Yes.
Of all the Jersey Boys. But it's not too bad anymore because the new cast are a lot taller, so it makes me look smaller. So yeah, I think Frankie's like 5'4" or something, very small.
Walk like a man, talk like a man, walk like a man, my son.
Did you have trouble to get a chance for auditioning with that tallness?
Well, I got the audition in the first place just to be seen generally. So I could have been seen for Bob Gaudio or any of the seasons. Mm-hmm. But when I got in there and sang my song, they realised that my voice was quite high. Yeah. So I thought I was quite suitable for Frankie, although a bit tall. So, and eventually after having about 8 or 9 auditions, I eventually got a chance to go to the States to meet Bob Gaudio and to sing for him. And they kind of luckily overlooked the height thing. I think they kind of eventually forgot about it. So yeah, and I got a chance and eventually I got the job.
Let's hang on to what we got. Don't let go, girl, we got a lot.
What did you think yourself when you first heard Frankie Valli's way of singing?
I think when I first heard him, it's definitely different. It's different, but it's luckily in the same range as what I sing. I don't sing quite as... He's got a very piercing, kind of quite nasal quality about his singing, which is the tough challenge about this show, is that they're always trying to encourage you to sing more twangy, they say, you know, with more through your nose, which isn't the way many people sing nowadays. No. So it's something you really need to concentrate on and go to regular singing lessons to make sure you're doing it correctly.
Yes.
Because potentially, if it's not something that you sound like naturally, you could potentially damage your voice if you do it wrong. Mm-hmm. So we have regular singing lessons on a weekly basis just to check we're doing it correctly.
Hang on, hang on, hang on to what we got.
My original way of singing is a lot more just sort of contemporary musical theatre, because that's where I trained. I trained for 3 years in London doing musical theatre, so it's kind of a lot more grounded. It's not so in your head like Frankie sounds. Like my range was the same, but it's kind of a richer. My own voice is a bit richer than Frankie would sing. So it's kind of interesting to know how I'll sound after this job.
I wish you'd never said breaking up. Oh, no, we'll both regret it, baby. Don't you go, baby. No, pick it up.
Na Londen leidt het spoor naar Frankie Valli ons naar hier achter mij Las Vegas. De acteur die hier Frankie Valli speelt is een goede bekende van ons. Het is zelfs een Facebook-vriend van niemand minder dan Daniel Cohen. Het is Rick Fangio.
Walk, 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 walk.
I'm Rick Fangio of Jersey Boys, and this is musicalworld.tv. Playing this role is the most challenging thing I've ever done. It's so vocally demanding, physically demanding.
Sherry, baby.
It's vocally so difficult to sing. It's almost like an opera singer, you know, because it's so taxing on the voice and the vocal cords, and you have to really know what you're doing up and down. There's no faking it. My first foray into Jersey Boys was playing Joe Pesci and understudying Frankie Valli. So I started for 6 months just playing Joe Pesci, and then I became Frankie Valli after that.
So you were waiting in the wings, awaiting your opportunity.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was using that time to study and try to make my voice as good as it could be, and strengthen my voice, and work on the acting, and try to get myself to a point where I could put myself in contention for the role. And I felt like I did that because after 6 months, when the person who was playing the Frankie Valli alternate left to go do the Chicago company, they asked me to become the alternate in the national tour company. So I became the twice-a-week Frankie, and I did it for 6 months. And then they approached me about coming to Las Vegas.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much.
Why did you think you were the right choice for being Frankie Valli?
I try to embody who Frankie Valli is, and who he is as a person and as a performer. And I've spent a lot of time talking to him and getting a lot of information about who he is and who Four Seasons were. And I try to be as true to him and them as I can be.
Let me love you, baby. Let me love you. You're just too good to be true.
Onze zoektocht naar Frankie Valli leidt ons helemaal tot hier, Los Angeles. Het gaat om een heuse Tony Award winnaar en hij is degene die de rol van Frankie Valli oorspronkelijk heeft opgezet op Broadway.
Walk like a man, fast as I can. Walk like a man from you. Out of the world, forget about it, girl. Walk like a man from you.
Hi, I'm John Lloyd Young from the original Broadway cast of Jersey Boys, and this is musicalworld.tv.
En hier zijn we dan, zowaar de echte John Lloyd Young, Frankie Valli en vele andere rollen daarna. Thanks for having us, John Lloyd.
I'm very excited that you're here visiting in Los Angeles.
Shame on you, your mama.
Frankie Valli himself was extremely busy when we were opening, so I only really got to know Frankie personally very little, and most of what I knew about him as a person I got from Bob Gaudio, his colleague, and from whatever I could, from the videos I watched and listening to the recordings. So I knew enough about Frankie from him and from the script to play him, but I also knew that this was someone that was already famous in the United States, so people had a certain expectation for who Frankie was. They had an idea of who he was. They had seen him on television and they'd sort of grown up listening to him. So I knew I had to get really close to what he was like, or at least people's idea of what he was like.
So I do a favor for you, you do one for me. That's fair, isn't it?
Sure, Mr. DeCarlo.
But most importantly, I knew that the audience had to love him, and they had to advocate for him, and they had to believe in him, because in the way the show is built, he's the last one standing, and he becomes a solo artist over the course of the show. He starts with a group, and then he's the last one there. So the audience really has to rally behind him. So my overriding goal was giving a very realistic interpretation of this person that people already knew, but also making him compelling and lovable in such a way that you want him to succeed.
Baby, who's gonna help you through the night? Who loves you, pretty mama? Who's always there to...
There will be, of course, a lot of, maybe hundreds of candidates for the part of Frankie Valli. And you are the guy to ask some tips and hints.